call this meeting to order. It is 4:03 PM, Tuesday, November 12th. Thank you everyone for being here. First of all, approval of the minutes. It's been a bit since we've met.
Yeah, really.
Yes, it has been.
I just had one request, if that's all right, because I know we have members here, a lot of business owners, but we also have a number of at large. And we're all described differently. I don't know if you could just add like at large for those of us that are at large members, just for.
In each set of minutes, or do you?
Well,
It was just an introduction around.
Oh.
And
Okay.
so I can just add in what their position is on the board for the minute.
And I don't think that would hurt anything to have that
Mm.
in the minutes.
Yeah.
Cool.
bad.
And I'm sure we have that in some. we
Yeah, it's
probably work on
actually-
some Organizational stuff, like the more things that people need to get when they come on the board, it's more stuff now. So-
Yeah, the board roster is actually in that presentation sheet that everybody has, so everybody should have every contact information on the last page of it, but yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Patsy.
Oh, it's-
All right, anything else? If there's nothing else, someone can say, I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Perfect. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Oliver. All right, all those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, public comment. Do we have anything online? Just checking. Nope. And then I know Becky's here to make a comment. You want to stand up? Yeah, come up front, do what you want.
I'm Becky Benedet, I'm Sherman Sports and Army Store of Corner. Second in May, I'd like to ask you if you decide that you are going to do something about free parking, that you consider it in for January, February, and March, the slowest months on Main Street. Encourage local people to come and park. And those are my three slowest months, and a lot of other merchants, that's their slowest months. If we can get local people back shopping with us, because I still get people in that will say, I haven't been downtown since I have to pay. And I've tried to tell them there are places they can park all day long, free. You just have to be able to walk through talks. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Becky. Parking budget overview is on our agenda, so we can look at numbers and stuff. Anybody else for public comment? I don't think so. Okay, approval of the agenda. So if we want to add anything or move anything, reorder anything, now is the time to do so.
Do we have, I'd like to add about the Main Street.
South Main Street.
South Main Street or the
Just Main Street.
closing Main Street.
About close,
No, we had talked on the phone about having a discussion.
oh, about events.
Yes.
Okay.
Closing of Main Street.
Can we put that behind parking?
Mhm.
So can we add that as item B and reorder those? Okay, anything else? All right, then someone can make a motion and say, I move to approve the agenda as amended.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Second,
second.
Aaron, and any more discussion? Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have our agenda. So first, parking budget review. Brian, real quick. Because since, our city manager, John Connett, is here with us, just want to run through, I think he knows everybody in the room, but I just want to do it. So I'm going to do it real quick. Mark Pavo, Black Bear. I can't say your last name.
Nykerk.
Nykerk, Nancy Nykerk. Feels like you're new, but feels like you've been here for forever. Nancy's an excellent board member. Aaron Adams, White Duck Taco, Chris Cormier, Carolina Specialties, Jerry from Mountain Deli, Brian Lou, Phil, you know Phil? Good.
So,
You know Matthew, Patsy Dupree, I don't know if you know Patsy, Sam Simmons, and Oliver Wall, Mass General. Joe, you know.
From Joe.
Oklahoma.
Bring samples.
come over. First round.
All right, cool, thank you. Okay,
Actually.
just in case, just in case, I mean, you know, and actually, I thought I was gonna, introduce some of the other people here too, that aren't here, so. Okay, go ahead, parking.
Where would you like me to start, or do you wanna, or how do you wanna?
This is what I'm just gonna be transparent about this. I asked Brian to come here today because I have been asked several times by a variety of merchants, not anybody in this room, actually, that they wanted free parking for the rest of the year and they were going to do a petition. And I said, like, don't waste your time. Not to be blunt, but it's not gonna happen. We have like a $90,000 debt service to cover, which might be close to the right number, I think, every month on the garage, or not the right number.
807 per year,
What?
807,000 for the.
807,000 for the year. And, you know, we're already like, I don't know what September looked like, because those last 4 days are probably pretty big that we missed. I knew we were not gonna hit it for October, even if we had done paid parking, and it's just like, that money has to come from somewhere. We don't have the money in our budget. But then even after I talked to the initial person about it, I got asked again, and then I got asked again. So that's like, I know we've been over this parking thing, and I know you guys understand, but if you get asked about it, I want you to have like the layman's version of the nitty gritty, not nitty gritty, of the basic outline numbers. So that maybe you can like commit these numbers, so you know how it works. Now, that doesn't mean that like, we can't at some point talk about adjusting things, but like, we've just gotten to the point where we have, we don't even have a year's reliable data because we had a hurricane month, so we still haven't gotten a full year of reliable data. But we have some reliable data now. We know a little bit more of where we are now. And this is always going to be a conversation. Like, parking will never be something we don't talk about. It's just, we've never not talked about it. We've never gotten out from underneath it. We never will. It's just the conversation will always change. But right now, I want you to know exactly what it looks like from a budgetary standpoint, so that you have the correct and simple information to explain to people how it works.
Let me say this, I'm gonna let Brian do the numbers because he does a great job with that. I will say this. A couple things. First of all, it's not the staff's decision. Ultimately, the city council can make the decision as it relates to parking, free parking. It's a city council decision. So all we do is provide information, and then the city council ultimately makes a decision. So whatever this, and you are appointed by the city council to make recommendations. So let me just say that. Let me just be transparent out of the gate that your role is to provide recommendations as an advisory board to the city council, and then ultimately city council. Staff would we would give them the basic information and let them make the decision, and then whatever they decide, as long as it's ethical and legal, we're gonna do what they ask us to do. Right? Nobody more than us would like to have, free parking. Trust me, the workload would be much less.
And a garage. We want all of it.
And the garage.
Doesn't work like that.
But I think as Brian, you've seen some of this, Brian showed again, I think he can clearly show there from a financial situation. We've got a debt, we've got a payment on the parking deck. I think, I'll be honest with you, I think we have seen the benefit of the deck during peak times, even during this period after the storm. I purposely parked in the deck, and the deck has seen an increase. People parking up on the third level, which is pretty consistently, which I think is really, I think it means good things for Main Street. Now, whether those folks were only the merchants in here can tell me whether that translated into retail sales or whether it just translated into, meal sales. I think a lot of people were in town because to get meals and beverages and things they couldn't get to the north of us. It's not, but I'd like to hear. So let me stop right there and say, we're gonna pay one way or another. We're either gonna pay with parking fees, or the city council then ultimately have to make a decision to put that payment somewhere else on the taxpayer to pay the note on the parking deck, because the parking deck's not gonna go away at this point. So, I just want to provide that introduction, and let Brian kind of go through the numbers, and we'll be glad to answer any questions. And Mr. Miller can hit me in the back of the head if I say anything wrong back there, so.
Yeah, so let's do numbers first and then we can go anecdotal after that.
Yeah, sounds good. I can send this out after. I didn't really prep a presentation or anything for today. Just go real high level and then I'll send y'all the information you need for when you're having conversations on the street or with folks that you have a quick fact sheet of some of the budget information. We have been working really hard on a dashboard that's tracking occupancy, very detailed. It's a really cool report, actually, if you dive into it and you can start looking at different aspects of when parking is highest from hour of day, day of the week. You can narrow it to a certain time frame. So we'll look at that. And Jamie, I think, has some ideas around how we could use that tool for you all to help your decision making as a board. If you did want to advocate for pivoting how we pay the needed expenditures. So starting out, the total budget for fiscal year 2025 is $1.28 million for the parking fund. So we categorize all of the parking expenditures in one separate dedicated fund, and it's all accounted for separately and transparently so folks can see, here's where my parking meter revenues go, and here's what's spent on. It doesn't get commingled or lost in any other type of general fund or other fund that the city might have. So it's all standalone on its own. So it's about $1.28 million. Salary and benefits is $270,000 of that cost. That number reflects the parking services supervisor, the parking attendant, and then additionally, traffic engineering technician, folks who do maintenance essentially on all the equipment. And then they pay, I think it's 1% of all the human resources, staff salaries, IT, a lot of our internal support staff. So like the funds, how we set that up is we split human resources and finance and things like that amongst the funds based on what they use of those departments. So I think they're accounting for like 1% of the total costs.
So like Lou's job partially comes out of this budget, but then.
I don't think we split Lou's.
We did for a while. We did for like a 3-year period.
Now that would maybe downtown.
Downtown,
but not
yes.
park.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry. That's what I
Main Street,
meant,
yeah.
downtown. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So we-
Yeah, so just for example, like that's,
Yeah, and we do that because we like to understand what the real total cost is if you look at it as a business unit, right? And so that's why we split salaries that way, and we do that across all our funds in the city. So that's where that $270,000 number comes from. So, you know, immediately, I think the first knee jerk in my mind is, well, $270,000, I only have 2 parking attendants. That's a lot of money for parking attendants. Well, it's not really the full story behind that number. So that's the background on that number. The debt service is for this year is $807,000. So we make 2 payments, 2 installments on that in December and June.
807.
What's the total owed?
Oh, I'd have to look back, but it's around 12 million. So I can get you that number as well. And it was a 20-year note, and so we're on year 2 of that note. But that is.
You want to help pay that pass?
Oh, yeah, it's in my back parcel.
And that number, I'm trying to think if that was level debt service or not. I'll have to double check, but I think that number is going down every year.
I always wanted to call it the Carol Citro Memorial Parking Garage. But
That renaming costs, I don't know.
You could do it like naming a building.
I just wanted to. Anyway.
The cost of the garage is 12 million.
Yeah, I'd have to know the specifics. It was around there, yeah.
Okay.
So that's the debt service on the garage. The operating capital cost is 208,000. So that includes like the property insurance, utilities for electricity, things like that. That includes the contract and service amounts on the kiosks, like the software to run the kiosks, the park mobile costs, you know, buying some equipment to like sweep the deck, things like that are all in the operating capital. And we have a breakdown of where all that is. The largest costs predominantly are the credit card processing fees, the utilities and the property insurance. And so that makes up the 1.28 million. Our total revenue is at 1.08 million. So we run about a $200,000 gap.
How much was that?
About $200,000 gap between revenue and expenditure. Yeah, 1.08. And so our initial estimates for revenue actually hit pretty much spot on, which was nice. So the meter sales and the permits and citations are actually coming in a little bit higher, which is good. That'll help us honestly in the long term. If people are paying site tickets, that's gonna help keep rates down. But that $200,000 gap is really due to the decisions we make as a city related to personnel. We make salary and benefit decisions for everybody, regardless of what business unit you're in. So we want to make sure all our staff receive benefits and salary increases and things like that as a team, as a one team. And so the salary and benefits number in here is much higher than what we were specking out when we were doing our model in 2021. And so getting the true cost of all the staff in here is what has driven a lot of that gap between revenue and expenditure. And so we still, we could say, well, let's pull the staff out of there and just keep it in the general fund. But just based on our philosophy around budgeting is we want to see the true cost. And so what happens with that gap is the general fund covers the gap. So right now, the general fund's covering about a $200,000 deficit annually on the parking enterprise fund. And so the general fund floats that money into the parking fund at the end of every year. When we think about decision-making around what revenues we have to pay for the cost of this enterprise, we have the general fund, right? It generates about $300,000 annually per penny of property tax. So we're less than a penny on the gap right now that the general fund's covering. If we wanted to do like free parking for 3 months, that would be like 1 penny on the tax rate. So the general fund would have to start paying more money into the parking enterprise fund to reduce rates. Other options are you have permit fees. And so every $5 increase on permits. So right now, the deck is $80 a month. Interior lots are $60 a month, and the exterior lots, we only have one right now, Dogwood, is $25 a month. Every $5 you increase that permit type, you get 15,000 in annual revenue. So not a huge drop in the bucket. So you'd have to really jack those rates up a good bit to get a substantial sum of money to start addressing either the deficit that the enterprise runs or offer some sort of free parking month or subsidized parking, right? We're talking about subsidizing really. So every quarter on meter sales is about 100,000 in annual revenue. So if we went from $2 an hour to $2.25 an hour, that'd be an additional $100,000 in revenue. And then every penny, so the MSD, the Main Street funds specific property tax rate that all the property owners pay in Main Street, that penny is not super strong. It's only about 12,000 in revenue annually. So I think that 12,000 could equate to like half of a month of parking. Is that correct? Am I thinking of that correctly?
Yeah, or like if we
One
did like
day.
1 day, like if we did free parking on like Thursday in January and February as like a wintertime promotional thing, that would basically equate to about a penny. Yeah.
And so I'll pause there. Any questions before we I want to provide that information first. And then I also want to talk a little bit about what the October free parking does to this equation. And then maybe we can talk more about what's in the dashboard and any other questions you might have. So I'll just pause for any general questions about the budget.
Well, Carolyn, you're mentioning that if people keep asking us, why don't we have free parking? You're going to tell us exactly why, in the sense that someone has to pay it. It'll be all the business owners and it'll be all the citizens of the city of Hendersonville. I don't live in the city limits, so I would benefit because I'm not going to be charged extra. So the locals who keep saying they don't want to pay for parking, who don't come down necessarily every day, are going to end up paying more if they quit charging for parking. I think that's one of the big comments you need to make to people when they ask about why can't we have free parking? Because we have this beautiful parking garage that we have to pay for. Why don't we, by the way, let someone do naming rights? You like to do for stadiums and
Sponsor.
yeah, hey, my God. Get someone to give $1 million to call it the
Flag dog walk.
WAG party.
Carolina Specialties Construction Parking Garage.
Anyway, just listening to all this, it's not like if you get free parking, everything goes away. They're gonna get charged one way or the other. And I don't think a lot of people who complain about free parking just because they're mad about it stop to think, well, It's gonna be paid for some way, and it's probably gonna be paid, I have to pay more out of my own pocket.
So now you know how, in a very small breakdown of it, so now you can, I mean, Brian's gonna send all this out, print it out, stick it above your desk and be like, actually, I have all those numbers right here, let me show you, which is exactly what I will do.
The reason we have Jamie is because logic and just basic numbers don't always work when trying to talk through these trade-off ideas, right? And so that's why things like Park Mobile Promotions and these things have been, I think, good efforts from this group and from the city and the downtown team. So just transitioning really quick. So October sales meters are typically about $85,000. So that's the lost cost for this October. And then about 15,000 permits. So that's about $100,000 that the general fund essentially council made the decision, this is the right thing to do for the community in this moment. The general fund is going to step in and cover it. And that's really the role of the general fund, is to be prepared to capture moments like this and help float other business units. So that's what happened in October. Jamie, you've got the dashboard up. The map isn't working, but essentially we've got a couple pages. So if you hop on over to page 2, this is just showing parking occupancy by zone. So this is showing our Main Street zone is the light blue, the lots is the green, the deck is red, and the total average occupancy is that dark blue. And so you can see this is set for March 3rd through September 30th, 24. So this is all of our data. So this is since we started paid parking, you can see the occupancies averaged out since the very beginning. And you can go down and piece this down to like a Saturday in July, and you'll see like the deck was actually over 100% occupied, which can't happen technically, but by the way the formulas work is $10 max kind of throws things off. But you can see we have really high peak times of occupancy and lower times. So Jamie, if you want to go to the third page, this breaks it down by hour and day. So it looks like it's filtered for the same time period. You can see obviously between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. on Saturdays is our highest traffic for Main Street. And then the deck is slightly delayed, but the reason the deck is delayed is the deck processes on time of payment, and the deck collects fees when you leave the deck, not when you initiate your parking session. So Main Street and the lots are captured when you initiate that timestamp, and you pay when you get there. The deck you pay when you leave. So I think the deck is probably pretty similar to Main Street and the lots is what I would argue. I think that delay is just people leaving from lunch. And then the last page, Jamie, I guess is, yeah, if you wanted to do a percent change look year over year. So we've just been able to get this data since we've pressed in March. So you can see the actual revenue percent change year over year. So from, if you scroll down to that bottom chart, Jamie, that's March was up 6% over last year. Kind of dwindled off. June was the loss, July about even, and then August was way up. I'd have to look into why August was so high. I think it's.
It's how Apple Festival falls. Sometimes it fits more in August and sometimes more in September.
Yeah, but if you actually look like and you filter for, I believe you can filter by zone. So if you filter for Main Street, you can see actually people were parking on Main Street more. Click those off and drop Main Street on. Yeah, Main Street was actually up year over year. So utilization of Main Street and the avenues actually increased. We've lost utilization in our lots. And the deck is up as well, I believe. So it's interesting to see the data from a year over year perspective. And I think this will start helping us help this group determine how do we want to make decisions to support small businesses. Hopefully this is useful information.
So the bottom line is the second year, more people are using it than they did the first year,
For Main
So
Street
people-
avenues, yes,
which will probably increase each year.
we have.
Because it's, when they realize it's not that complicated.
Yeah, people figure it out, buy their first ticket and maybe second ticket.
Available for anyone to see.
I've been working on polishing it up for public use. So the last thing I gotta fix is the map's not pulling up on the first page, but once I get back to that, it should be pretty easy to fix. Actually, we're planning on publishing it before the hurricane hits, so. Yeah. Yeah, we can get this out there.
And so, like, let's see, March 2023, I mean, we gave warnings for like warning tickets for what, 3 months or something, like for a long.
We still
Very beginning.
do first time offense is always a warning.
So, I mean, that could be partly responsible for the increased use, right? I mean, that's not factored in here, would it be? Like if people were actually using it, but they just weren't using the app.
To be honest, yeah, if once our enforcement becomes more effective, which I think it is.
Yeah.
With more effective enforcement, more people will feed the meter and you will see an increase. Likely, even if we didn't have more cars, you would see potentially an increase in revenue because people are understanding the system.
Do you know how many people pay the tickets, like actually?
Yeah, we have that data. I don't have that as readily available, but we are working on some habitual unpaid individuals, yeah.
You know, Elvira's out there making it rain this week.
Yeah.
Getting busy.
After it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm on the way over.
And again, doing his job.
He loves the work.
Job.
Why he like stands by, he's just like, I got him.
That's one of my biggest things at the beginning was that we just need someone to enforce it. If someone
Yeah.
enforces the times, that's the biggest thing.
Well, we had this discussion early on and repeated it numerous times, but yes, there are going to be folks coming in that find fault with having to pay parking. It's a given, and we knew that day one, that there was gonna be a percentage. But we also said, and I still stand by this statement, that that number will diminish, and I think you can prove that by the complaints coming in, or, you know, however we can metric that. But over time, yes, the noise level is going to go down. Now, I can't speak to businesses on Main Street and, you know, how real or unreal the impact is, because what we don't have, the one metric that would be beautiful to have is some assessment of the abuse that took place before the meters.
Well, I can give you some of those numbers.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I was here for 4 years, you know, before parking came, right? And I know I could count on one hand the number of times that I got to park on Main Street. You know, any time of year, and that's because the parking privileges were abused. Right, so this is a 21st century solution to a city that is no longer Petticoat Junction. I'm sorry, you know, we're in the city category now, and we deserve to have this kind of revenue. This is amazing. We didn't have it, right? And now we've got what tourists expect when they come here. Now, the locals might still be grinding their teeth, and I get it, because they, you know, they want to come to Black Bear and park out there for 2 hours and enjoy their coffee and not pay, you know, $3.50 or whatever it is to get out of town. I get it, and I don't know how much it hurts Mark. I don't know how much it hurts, you know, others. But I think we have to stand true to the effort and the policy.
So to
I don't think that's
address,
been a question, but yes, you're right, but yes. Go.
so to address Becky's comments at the beginning, this idea about January, February, March for locals. I think a big component here is gonna be messaging. Like this information right here, I know a lot of people aren't gonna digest this information, a lot of consumers, so they're gonna be like, I don't care. You know, you can tell them why it's happening, and so if you're gonna focus on one, I would say relatively small group of people that are essentially boycotting Main Street businesses because they don't wanna pay the $2. That's essentially, the horror stories that I hear are from people that are doing that. Now, I'm not on Main Street, but I understand the locals in this town for 15 years, and I've had some of that myself. This idea of like, they don't agree with something, so they're just gonna stop coming to your business. And those are the worst stories that I hear, all kind of have that denominator that I hear from Main Street merchants that are hearing that from their customers, that they're not making the effort, they're not gonna pay the $2. It's more of like a principal kind of thing. So but I do think that's a relatively small group of people.
Do stick with you more, but I think they're much fewer and further between
Yeah.
than we realize. It's just, that's what you hear. You don't hear, look at this, this is amazing, this is amazing, like that we're able to generate this kind of revenue and have essentially like, what, tourists pay 80% of our parking garage, I mean, or something like that, like that's awesome, so.
Right.
You say 80%?
That was just a random.
Well,
number I
but
threw
that
out.
is true. It's like gas.
It's tourists, thank you for buying my parking garage, I mean,
It's
yeah.
like when people pay gas, the reason you can charge taxes is you make the people that come through your town and get gas pay for the streets in your town by the taxes that they pay for gas. I mean, it's a use tax for coming to a city and it's for everybody and it's not, it's taking away for punishing locals. And I really think that it's the squeaky wheel and we do want to listen to the squeaky wheel, but I live 4 miles out of town, you know, I've said this before, locals should know where all the free parking is, which is 2 blocks, 2 blocks.
So
Well, now we know, because this is, the discussion today wasn't like, should we keep doing it or how can we change it or anything? It was simply a relaying of information, so you have these numbers. So that we know this, we know how it works, and we can explain it in as simple terms as possible when somebody asks, or like say it's way more complicated, let me give you the like really simple version of it. It's, and you have to simplify this if you're gonna explain it, but I certainly will. And probably people will be like, oh God, yes, it's way above me. Cool, thanks. I didn't think about it like that, and then they'll move on. But anyway,
Parking fees lower taxes.
there you go.
But then the taxes still might go up. They might
I
go
don't know, the mess.
Parking fees lower your taxes, whoever you're talking to.
The cost of doing that to everybody, not just charging local people that.
So what about,
That's
At
one
the end of the
sentence.
day, let's get another project going, so they have something else to complain about. Instead, they will present their process. There you go. Come up with something else.
Dr. G.
And maybe because it was so good that the city did do free parking after this horrible disaster we had, but it's brought it back fresh to people's minds.
The other thing that people need to realize is it's not the city being mean. They obviously tried to say, okay, everybody's in a bad way, here we go. But we all talked about it many, many, many times. We're on for paid parking. Everybody's got a parking garage. Everybody's got parking. That's just the way of life. That's just the way it is. We all agreed on it. The city built the garage, spent
$12 million.
$12 million. I didn't write that number down, but it's, how many zeros is that, you know? It's a lot.
I think we're
There it is.
on the point of throwing stuff against the wall. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me from a budgetary standpoint, from a dollars and cents standpoint, that doing free parking for 3 months is not even an option. I mean, it's just not. And so what does that do? What does that accomplish? 3 months of free parking. It's gonna put us more in the hole. Is it really gonna stimulate businesses down on Main Street?
Not that much.
I don't think so. I think the mess.
April.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I do think like, you know, if like, I think we're past that. This is like, okay, this is done. We need to move forward. Obviously, the resistance to parking, I think, has dropped. The revenues are going up and resistance has dropped, but you're still gonna hear, if you go around the table, you're still, and ask everybody their personal story, you're just still gonna hear these stories and they're always gonna be there. But, you know, to make an argument to say, you know, my customers aren't coming, they just don't come downtown anymore because of the paid parking thing. Well, that's a separate issue. And I think it's really powerful to have these numbers. Because if somebody was so inclined, you could actually discuss with them and share with them the numbers about why, you know, why this is happening and why, you know, why it's actually a really good thing the city's got these revenues in play now. And yeah, okay, so we can get free parking, but your taxes go up.
So Nancy's right, that
That resonated
if we
with
did
people.
like January, February, March, they'd complain more in April and go through this whole thing
Right,
again.
and
And there
then-
was a point like over a year ago that I was like hard pressing for some kind of concession in January, February, March of 2024. And Phil talked me out of it and several of you did. And I'm glad you did because you're right. It just would have like, you know, let's, you know, keep bringing it up and changing it again. I mean, it was hard enough going from the transition for the free month of October, which was excellent and very nice of council to do. But I myself had a like I'm losing it moment because I had three people in front of me that couldn't figure it out because just that transition period was difficult. Again, and if we had just kept charging for it, that wouldn't have happened. So, I mean, I think you should do your other part quickly about I don't think we're gonna do that, but, and I definitely don't think, you said what it looks like if we change those numbers, although I think we maybe understand, no? Maybe in 3 years, maybe in 5 years,
Well,
like
that service falls off in 18 years.
in 18 years.
So you're gonna have to make a decision to what to do with all that extra money.
At some point.
In 18.
But we could, like, we don't know what's coming down the road. But we now know more information. So like,
Cost
if
that
we wanted to
at
put
that point
fingers
or
on
not.
road
Yeah.
entertainment, something we have by now a good idea of how it might affect things. And with more data, we'll have a really solid idea. Like, we'll know almost exactly how much money we'll lose that month or we'll have to cover that month if we ever wanted to. I'm not saying we do, and I don't even want to talk about it, but like, we probably will always have to revisit that in some capacity, just to touch on it sometimes, but
And that would be more or less in the budget time for if you all, particularly the Main Street MSD folks, wanted to talk about raising your MSD taxes, that's where that would more or less have to come from. So that'd be like a long time, like an advance notice kind of thing to figure out.
When Seventh Avenue opens, I mean, there are paid parking becomes in effect on Seventh Avenue. Oh,
We have not discussed that at all.
oh,
And let's not.
I thought it was.
and let's not start. Brian's gonna send us all these, like, just basic budgetary numbers, things that, it'd be just nice to have that
Yeah, real basic.
really handy to be able to explain to
So
people.
this goes to show you,
Quick, so.
Yeah.
A lot of, you wanna go first?
No, you go first.
So, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record here for a little bit from many of those that know, have been working with or would work with me. The reason why I started in this downtown advisory group was because of parking meters, when I found out we were gonna have them on me. And I'm against them. I was against them before and I'm against them now. I think it takes away from the small town feel that we have. I think it adds frustration to a lot of the citizens in the town. However, this conversation has happened, in my view, for 6 years. Plus, there's a lot of you that have been here before then. I mean, Jared Bellin was a part of this for another 5 years prior to me. Through the process, though, I have made a conscious decision to actually be open to it. And through that, I see that we need the parking meters, even though I wish they weren't there, and I understand why they're there. And I think that as a group, we need to stop thinking of this because we are involved with it and the obvious reasons that we see it happening, and put ourselves in our public speaker's shoes. Because she, who is a well-known person on Main Street and has been on Main Street forever, made the comment and left. And is not part of the conversation, as many of the people on Main Street are also not part of the conversation. Joe, Oliver, Caroline, Jerry, we're on Main Street every day and we hear these comments constantly coming. And we have to try and come to some sort of understanding of how to explain that to everyone on layman's terms, not just, it's gonna be 18 years until the parking garage is paid off, and then maybe city council will drop it. We have to have some sort of idea, or maybe, because they're also not going to city council meetings and having these conversations,
Well,
I had a deputy come to me and say he doesn't come to Main Street anymore because he's not paying for the parking meters, and just a small conversation I had with him about, it's not even 2 blocks, it's 1 block off of Main Street.
yeah.
It's free parking and we all live here. You're not hurting the city. You're hurting us, the people with businesses and our employees. So I think we really kind of, should have a conversation about the conversation we have with folks. And how what that conversation looks like, because it's not gonna change. We're gonna have parking meters on Main Street. And like many of us have said here today, the more time that goes on, the easier it's gonna be to deal with that. But how do we get there
I don't think you apologize for what we did, because it took, how many years? Was it 6 years from the time we
We've
started?
been talking about this since Lou started working for the city of Hendersonville.
I know, there's no reason.
They're not going
It's
away.
not
So
going
how
away.
do you have this conversation so that we don't have to keep having this all the time? And whether it's come sit inside of a meeting, get online and watch the meeting.
Well, I don't know. That's, I mean, that's really like, I didn't intend for that conversation to happen today. I really just wanted Brian to give you the numbers so that you knew them. So
I think that's
you had an
what it is.
explanation.
Is to
So
have
that
that
you
available.
could as individuals explain it to the public and to other business owners or other people that might be saying something, you know, just making an anecdotal comment.
Got it.
So that you had more information.
Caroline, Jeff has his hand up behind it.
And Nancy had something to say too.
Nancy was first, I'll go back to Nancy.
Well, I am not a business owner, but I come from an area that lots of small towns have parking. So when I came here and found out we were doing this, it was like, no big deal. And then I found out what a big deal it was. I've been in Sherman's shopping. I shop in Sherman's all the time because I have a son. And they're very vocal about their opinions of the parking to customers. And I didn't like that and tried to speak to her, but I think it goes back to what you said, the word of mouth. Because I've taken it upon me, and some of you have seen me in your businesses with 2 or 3 people with me. And I just say, hey, it's great, come on, let's go. Because there are people of my large community that don't want to come down here and park. And I say, come on, the parking structure is great. You get out and it's raining, you can put up your umbrella before you get out. If it's cold, you know, and so I've made it very positive. And I have people who are now coming downtown without me because I've done it. But it's like parking is real. I mean,
I agree with the conversation, because in our shop,
word of mouth.
we don't do the negativity.
Yeah,
We
that doesn't
know the positive about it. I mean, October, I can't tell you how many people were parked on Main Street all day long.
And that's what's all about, right? It's turning over the spots.
And when we have the parking, there's people complain, oh, there's empty spots on Main Street because of parking. No, there's empty spots on Main Street because people are leaving and the next person's coming in. So this is a positive thing that is happening.
But we gotta work the word of mouth.
Also,
So do we have any data that proves that the turnover is beneficial? Are we driving more customers to Main Street because of
I don't have data.
access to parking
I would absolutely.
that we wouldn't have had prior to?
It's not covered by hurricane.
Yeah, it's gonna be not, because we're comparing apples to oranges. Essentially, you have unpaid and someone who's parked there all day long, right? And we have a study from 2015 that shows like these cars were there all day and it was completely occupied, right? It was completely occupied. And then now we've got new data from when parking was in, where we do see, you know, a larger number of people potentially on the street, and it turning over is what you can infer from it, but you can't really say, you can't connect point A and B at this point. I think what we have to do is do one of those more observant, camera-based, license plate-based occupancy studies to see if there's more people actually turning through.
You should collect how many tickets were handed out on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of October. And see, compared to like the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of any other month when we had, because that guy, he was.
We'll get more data.
Job done.
And I still don't feel like this is awesome, but like, I would have a hard time making a solid decision off of just the data that we have so far. I mean, I think we need like 5 years of it. And then every time we're gonna have to be like, oh, but March 2023 was everybody boycotted Main Street. And then we had the hurricane and then we had this. And then, you know, there's always, well, I would hope that eventually the world would not keep throwing crap at us, but you know, I mean, that just seems to be the way it is.
Except
So,
for cash payments are really low for them. 3%, I just wanna highlight that shameless plug for myself.
I would love to not have to keep having, and I don't want to have this, but what I do want to do is I want to keep providing you guys with like solid data and information so that you can be informed, you can react to the public when necessary, and if tasked with this as this group in the future, you have a history of knowing what's happening and why and how it works on the back end. That was the goal for today.
I want to hear what Jeff has to say.
He wanted to talk about a parking study. Is that what you wanted to bring up? Did you have more?
Certainly, kind of be able to take it back a little bit, just so, you know, council and staff didn't just invent this thing and didn't invent all of this. I was on council for 8 years. I was off 2, and then I came back on 1. And during my first stint, we were getting our butts busted all the time about parking on Main Street. We did a study. 60% of the spaces were being taken by the employees. All day, every freaking day. So we started marking the tires and giving tickets. Well, then in someone's wisdom, legal system decided we were tracking cars by marking them with chalk. So you had to quit doing that. So everybody circled the wagons then came back after us, right down in the city office and said, we want public bathrooms and we want the parking solved. The only way you're gonna solve the parking is through a deck. I don't care, we can go buy a bunch of parking lots or dirt further away and nobody will use them and they'll still start parking on Main Street. It doesn't work. So we went and we tried to work a deal with the hotel. They disappeared. That would have helped some, maybe, but it still didn't put the deck where we needed it, which is right where it sits. These guys went and negotiated good deals with Frank Jackson, Tom Fazio. And yes, Tom Fazio pays for all his spaces. That little rumor is not true. And we have the perfect deck across from the perfect bathrooms, right there in its level. Now, we had a good price on the deck and then COVID hit, and when COVID came in, how much did the deck go up?
Maybe
A lot. But the whole time going back 8 years ago or more, we told everybody, you're gonna have to pay for the deck. There's going to have to be parking. We paid for it. So the parking being paid for wasn't a surprise. Now, where the other curve came in was when this guy comes in and got everybody that owns a parking lot to slap damn meters on them. So when they're closed at night and you used to be able to park there and go to eat. Now they're all gone. And he's giving out $57 tickets. We're giving out $25 tickets, but we're getting blanked for every freaking day. So there's so much that went into this. There's a learning curve here that has to be. But you can't tell me you don't think this deck's awesome. That what it has done is given the opportunity for you guys to have good businesses, draw people in, somebody suck it up to $4. And they have that opportunity. If they don't like technology, go in the no tech deck and just pull the thing and pay with your credit card when you get out. These guys did awesome.
And we have to remind everyone too, that you guys worked with us too, with no charge first half hour, reducing areas that had parking. I mean, this was not just like, this is what you get, like, the city did a lot to help with this whole thing and listened to a lot of us and other community members about it.
We got hammered constantly by it, rightfully so, but what is there now? Don't look at me for any apologies, I'm proud of it.
And this is and Brian has pointed out, this is an outstanding business investment for the city, right? You can call it whatever you want, a parking solution or whatever. But in 18 years, my guess is there's gonna be plus $1 million annually going into the general fund.
And
It won't be buying more meters.
It's a beautiful day.
It's going into the fund, which means either there'll be less upward pressure on our district taxes, or we'll have something else really neat to put that money into, right? That benefits Hendersonville.
And your numbers sound good. And I don't think you should cut labor if you want to
Yeah, we can't. That's why we
No, don't.
know we have to fund it.
Everybody likes that guy. It's a good job. It keeps most of the local economy, you know.
I mean, it's a long-term investment. It's a good investment. And trying to persuade certain people of long-term goals and visions is gonna be difficult for what you do.
Can I ask,
I think,
Anybody else has questions, tell them to call me.
You're not to be done, you really want.
But I'll still ask. They got some this.
If you're gonna be like, well, everybody's calling me, asking me all these things and I can't.
As long as they can handle bad language, it's okay.
We're not talking about the way you talk, Chad.
Chris,
I want to ask Mike a question. When you're going through here and you said that it's gonna get a little less overtime and all this stuff, and I understand labor's and all that stuff. But in theory, the rate that's set right now should carry it through for 18 years, right?
We would like it to, right?
Okay,
It's
so,
currently not due to our.
Right,
own
but-
benefit
but
costs,
as
we can
the-
justify it.
but as that other part comes down, you're making more money.
Exactly.
And in reality, in 10 years, $2 to park's gonna seem like a hell of a deal. So it's almost gonna be like, it's gonna be like free parking. So if we get through these first few years, the rest of the time is gonna seem pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I think we
You
put
know, I
ourselves
mean-
in a position where we should be stable. What we expected the revenue to generate is meeting and or exceeding what we expected, which is
So I
excellent.
mean,
That's what we
really,
want.
The other thing we have to
Paying for the debt
understand
service
is-
on the deck, like, you couldn't ask for a better, exchange from revenue. It's not like it's going somewhere else.
The other thing we should keep in mind is in time, more people that are moving here. My father, he's like, you park in the parking lot, I have a permit. How much is it? $25. He laughed at me. He's like, that's what we pay a day.
yeah,
And we're gonna have younger people that are growing in this community and it's gonna be a normal thing.
I
We
think,
have other things.
I know,
Yeah.
well, I've been trying, but everybody keeps wanting to beat this dead horse, so I'm gonna let them.
sorry.
I mean, I really just wanted you guys to have the information.
Brought it up.
Exactly.
I agree with Jamie, Madam Chair. I've got to leave in a few minutes, but I want to hear Mark's concern about Main Street and parking. So can we have that conversation unless,
It's fine, I mean, whatever, here, we're all here already.
right? Wasn't that number 2 on the agenda?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I want you to hear that, because I want to talk about that.
Okay.
Anything else about
You should
parking?
have left.
Go, Mark.
Just my thoughts on the October Halloween closing of Main Street. Personally, after going through the whole, what we all went through, end of September, losing Art on Main into October, losing, a lot of that time in revenue in on our busiest month. It just hurt a little bit when we closed Main Street so early. In my opinion, we closed it at 12 o'clock. The events didn't start till 5, Jamie, correct?
6.
5. For me, that was hard because when we do that, especially for an event historically, has not been as large as it is this year. I mean, 60 vendors this year.
It's more this year, but it's been a big, yeah.
Significantly year over year. 5 years ago, all we had was people walking up and down Main Street. There was no vendors on Main Street. It's always been a great event on Main Street for us as well. We lost all of our afternoon business. And then because there were so many vendors on Main Street, food and drink, we lost significantly on our revenue that night as well.
We're talking just Halloween.
Treat you.
Okay, all right.
So my concern and my ask to all of you, your thoughts on it was, what is this something that we're seeing across the board? Is it just me? I did have some people ask me about it, like, why is it closed so early? I get it when we do Apple Festival, we close it early, to get everyone out. My other concern with it is, when we do close it, is there not a way to limit that time? So say we have a 5 o'clock start time, we close at 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, immediately walk up and down Main Street, ticket every single car, have 6 tow trucks ready, get them all out of there. Where I'm from, that's what you do on Main Street.
Yeah.
You just take care of it. Now, I know we're a small community, we have a lot of locals, I get it, but we're growing. So, and it hurts us. So that was my concern, is that why such a long time? Are we gonna turn Treat Street into a major festival where a lot of the vendors or merchants on Main Street are just gonna close because it's gonna hurt them rather than help them?
So,
Originally, it was something that was helping us.
And that's what happened with Belshare. It stopped her helping the local businesses and they.
Close.
so there are many reasons to close the street. I'm gonna echo what Mark said, because I agree with everything he said. There are lots of reasons to close the street. Not every reason to close the street or time to close the street is going to directly benefit you in that time frame, which Mark knows and is fine with, and I am also fine with. And a lot of the businesses are also fine with, like, for instance, Woodlands closes during Apple Festival. It's not their thing. They're like, whatever, it's fine. We go to the beach. Whatever, like, so we can't have every single street closure benefit every single business every single time. So fine with that. I don't even care if, like, for instance, Treat Street, I don't know that Treat Street actually even brings return business back. But I am super duper happy to sit out there for some hours and give families a place that is safe to trick or treat for when they don't have anywhere else to go. And especially this year, I saw a lot of people that had like Lake Brewer Strong shirts, or they even mentioned, like, in our community, the thing was canceled this year. So like it felt even better this year just to like be able to provide that. So again, like, I am so fine with closing the street for even something that brings like no revenue to the businesses, but it's just a wonderful thing to do for the community. And that adds to our overall like look and portfolio, because Trick or Treat Street looks really good
Well,
to like the public.
But he was saying.
But I'm not done yet. But the closing of the streets, the process of it, and when I think that a lot of merchants, when they say, oh, we hate closing the streets, we hate closing the streets, it's not just the event. It is a cluster, the process of doing it. And we have got to do that better. I have been saying this for some years, and what I have seen is no change of the process, no change in the signage.
That's not true.
It's true. We've had this conversation.
And I got signs out for you, and we put them out. The only time we did not put those out was for Treat Street. We put out sandwich for every event this year after you.
So what's gonna happen with the, it's not just for me, Jamie.
I know, but I'm just telling you, you've done it.
You're doing a bad job. This is just operating differently completely.
So let me say this, because I've got to be up the road here by 6 o'clock, and this could go on forever.
Yes, it could.
So let me tell you a couple things about this year, a couple things we're dealing with. That we dealt with this year, and we're dealing with long term. We're a little bit about transition. But let me say, this year, because we made the decision to have it because we needed to have it for our community, right? Coming out of the storm. Our normal public works crew, that for one reason, they were busy picking up debris. I mean, so it was all hands on deck. We had to adjust a little bit to get other people to help us, okay? So that's one thing that's going on. The other piece that we're struggling, I'll be honest with you, we're pushing and pulling in our organization, whereas Jamie's advocating for the downtown and keeping the street open as long as we can. We've got our public safety folks, rightfully so, overly concerned about hardening. Anytime we got people in the street, hardening Main Street so that vehicles, bad actors, or people who are having a medical incident, or just like the woman that drove off I-40, people protecting the people that are in the street. So it is requiring us to think differently than we have in the past. Sawhorse barricades no longer sufficient. As much as we would love in this day and age to just put a sawhorse barricade, which you can do in 10 minutes, we could do the whole street in 10 minutes. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but a sawhorse is one thing. We went to the water barricades. For us to put the water barricades up and down the street, it's pretty much labor intensive, lots of water, it takes a long time to do. So you may have seen different barricades at Halloween. We're exploring different barricades that don't require as much water, have as much stopping power. We're trying to figure this out. We're trying to figure out, we even looked at, with, talking to Jamie about, installing bollards. Those are very expensive, and the crash rate, getting crash rated barricades or bollards are not as easy. So we've gone to, we bought a set of, what about 74, 72 of, you've seen them, the yellow barricades, they're Homeland Security rated type.
One's down by the fire station.
Down by the fire station, we bought those, but they're very expensive, so we were creative and we bought them right after the storm. So we hear you, we realize what y'all are dealing with. I wish it was as easy as lining up tow trucks.
I got a question real quick on Halloween. Sorry, you can go ahead.
Halloween is just the latest example. This is not just like an attack on Trick or Treat Street. Like,
Well, I do have a specific question on Halloween.
you did,
Yeah.
I have a timeline.
No, or, okay.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Do you want me to ask my question or not?
Question.
So Halloween, we have that the no parking is after 12. The street has to get cleared by 1. It actually didn't get cleared till well after 1 this time, because I walked on the street. And then the vendors basically had from 1 to 4 to get their cars in and get their cars out, which is not a lot of time for that many people and the bounce houses and all that stuff. And so that specifically for Halloween, because it's in the middle of the day, I don't see how on that one, that's a police question, but there's not a lot of time to get cars towed and cleared out to have this secure street of what they're requiring us to have. And so it either can be an earlier thing, or the event goes later, or it's relocated. But I think that's really gonna be the only option for that.
The only vendor, there was Parks and Rec got there at 2:07. And then no other vendors came until 2:50. I walked up and down the street the whole entire time. There were 5 cars left on the street for between noon and actually, well, maybe about 2:30. And there were only 5, and the police drove up and down the street for 2 hours on the loudspeaker. And those last 5 cars didn't get moved until right at the very, very end. And I only saw 1 ticket given to one of those cars. And it was because Kristen was busy doing stuff. But all those 5 cars, this is all. So for 2 hours, we had the street closed because 5 people are sitting in a bar or wherever, watching their vehicles and waiting to see when it looks like a tow truck's about ready to come and pull them. Then they come and pull them. And Kristen didn't get to all of them to give them tickets. They should have gotten tickets at noon. That's what the sign said. They should have gotten tickets at noon. And they should have been towed long before that. We don't need an officer. This is 2 hours of more than one officer time driving up and down the streets because 5 people aren't respecting what the signage says.
I mean, if we want to tow people early, then we'll.
Hours
Early can be done with it.
And giving these people who are blatantly breaking the rules and knowing they're doing it tons of leeway. It's crazy. It's crazy. And the vendors, yeah, the vendors did take their own sweet time. They know they got 4 hours, they'll take their own sweet time. They didn't need that much time, but.
A lot of time.
2 hours.
Fine.
2 hours, plenty.
Well, they
They had it from 2 to 4.
from 2 to 4. Well, they got there at 10 minutes to 2. And they did take their own sweet time. Go, Mark.
I think that's part of the concerns, that being on Main Street and seeing it closed for 2 hours before vendors start showing up. It's a half-mile street. We should be able to clear that in a half an hour, to be quite honest, you know.
It's hard to do.
I know it's hard to do, but to have that much time, and it's not just this event. When we did the
Yes,
Christmas tree
not-
lighting last year, I was running late And I got there with my trailer to set up in front of the Christmas tree. And it was already like 3 hours. I think it was like 4 o'clock or something like that. And there were still people parked. I had to wait for the police to try and find a person to move their car. The street had closed at like 12, like.
Are we finding people?
What is going on?
Okay, well, if our answer is that we want to tow people, then we'll just start towing them, and then for that, if that's the solution, then that's.
It'll only be 5 people.
I don't want to knee jerk because we're not gonna win. We're not going to win, okay? Because we had a downtown business who was in that lot, you're talking about, Mark, complain about us. Then chewed us all out pretty heavily because we closed parking a little earlier. So there is no perfect solution.
Well, I think they're saying, don't close this early, just don't give people enough leeway to call them and just tow them regardless of what they're going to do.
And the sign should say,
Once
yeah,
we do that, it'll be a trend. People will know. I mean, do you get to count to 3 from your parents or do you get to count to 10, you know?
yeah, and then do you get another 10? Because we gave everybody like a lot of time. Like the signs need to say, block must be clear, street must be cleared at 2 PM, towing starts at 2, period. If they don't, I mean, I stood next to this one guy's car. And he was watching me. I was in my witch outfit, had my witch hat on. And I kept walking up and down the street and I would like hurry back and I know he's watching me because I went inside for like 90 seconds. And he came running out, sneaking to get in his car and leave, because I was gonna yell at him, so I was mad. Well,
I know
he was in Megaluna sitting.
I know you guys are hearing a lot.
But this is on our agenda. Yeah, special events and
No, you're
getting
not.
everything ready for that. This is good anyway. It is, it is.
I look at a coffee shop, like merchants know that I'm here. I'm very vocal with the people around me on the 300 block. And they, God, this is crazy, Mark. Why is the city doing this? Like, I have answers for them, which you don't.
What if the cars weren't impounded, but just taken to the visitor center,
That's
dropped
the
off,
thing.
and just moved
But
a couple blocks away?
$50
$50 or something, but.
Should bring it to a lot that has a permit, and then when they park them in the lot, then you get.
Last year, I think for the,
Get them out of there.
for the parade, I think there were like two cars left on the street and the cops drove up and down for 2 hours with the loudspeakers and there were only 2 cars.
Maybe that's what to take out of the conversation, is the time to clear the street needs to be reduced.
And so this is the other thing, it's using an incredible amount of staff time for a long period of time. So instead of having whatever, 3 staff, 4 staff, however many it is for this 5 or 6 hour period. And so for some of these events, we close at 10 AM or 11 AM or 12, and there's no setup involved, like the parade, which I'm gonna get to in a minute. But I would rather have the staff descend upon Main Street at like the time to like go to, and we go, and we move all the barriers instead of Kristen going from block to block and Terry going from block to block, like 2 or 3 people trying to, move the barriers. And again, this is not them doing a good job. It's just not having.
Oh, no, we'd love to have more people
The
coming out and helping.
resources. Yeah, it's like, I'll talk to you in a minute. I gotta run down here and like, scurry down and close this one. And then I gotta close the other side of this one. And I mean, they were spending all this time running up and down and we should have had staff or volunteers just to be like, boom, done, closed, that's it, And the,
Not that easy.
well, it's gotta be that.
I just want to level expectations.
It's not that easy.
It's not
But
that
listen,
easy.
I've said this for some years and I hear your argument. We talked about it, but I have seen very little, if anything, change in the process. And like we were talking about parking garage, we are big boys and girls now, people, we are big people now, the city is, we have to manage this differently. And I don't want it to go, I shouldn't have even let it go this long. I should have, if the hurricane hadn't happened, I probably in September would have been like, we need to do this now and talk about this now. Because guess what's gonna happen with Christmas parade?
It's gonna be exactly the same as last year. You're gonna be complaining about it the next day, and I guarantee it.
10, everybody on that block is gonna lose their shit, pardon my French.
But if you do.
And then we're gonna close the block down, the whole street down at noon for a 6 p.m. parade or a 5 p.m. parade. There's no setup involved. We're gonna have police officers driving up and down on loudspeakers telling everybody to get the hell off the street, which is a horrible look. And last year on the Saturday, that Saturday, no, this is where the revenue, Caroline, I did 10 grand on a Saturday in December. I did 3.
This, y'all, this has gone a long time. The message that I heard it, and I'm not part of the city staff, but I think we have a huge agenda. I understand your
It's
frustration.
not a long time. The parking has went a long time.
Well, it was brought
This is
up.
something that's gotta get brought up.
I know you
Brought it
brought
up.
it up. I'm just saying.
Talked about it a bunch and I have not brought it up in a meeting because I thought we could get it done without having to hash it out, but that's clearly not gonna happen. So this is where we're talking about it. Because I watched it happen with Trick or Treat Street. And this is not about closing the streets or the events. It's about the process of doing it. And I have seen not enough change to be satisfied, so I'm bringing it up now.
Okay, it's been brought up.
It has.
And we're being. No,
I'd like to just try and close this conversation. I think that if the city can use some of the information we've given, make a move in the direction, at least we can say to people, they're trying. And then we
actually.
can move forward from there.
Actually, this group can bring some thoughts and ideas to the surface to pass on to the city and Jamie and how to make changes in this that make more sense.
That's right.
But I don't want to hear any more about, case studies because it wasn't on the agenda originally. We put it on there and right now, if somebody wants to put a motion out there that we put this on the next agenda as a strategy and discussion topic, then make it happen.
We talked about parking for an hour, Phil.
No,
Yes, we did.
no.
We did talk about parking for an
It was
hour.
on the agenda. You had some
We
questions.
added it and you-
Make a motion to add it to the next agenda?
we added it to the agenda before the agenda was approved.
We added it and it
You
turned.
want to make a motion to put it on the next agenda?
I think we need to move on to maybe it's getting late. So yeah, let's add it to a future conversation that we can add more time and actually get into.
That future one, I will make sure that the police are here because they're the ones who are going to be able to answer. Yeah.
Put some structure to it, so we have something to.
When the city manager has something to say, let him say it.
I'm gonna say one more thing. I have brought this up, not in this meeting, for 3 years. And nothing has been done. That's why I'm bringing it up. That's why Mark and I are bringing it up today, because we sat and watched everything that we talked about. Now, I understand there was scurry after the hurricane, so we were like, whatever, like, it's fine. I'm glad we get to have this, like, we'll let it go for the most part. But like a year ago, we talked about the Christmas parade and it's exactly the same. We didn't even talk about it. We didn't even talk about it in this meeting one time.
We did earlier this year and we my direction from that was to talk to the parade people and ask them to move it to Friday.
And they're like, I don't know.
So yeah, and that was the extent of the information that I was able to do.
So we're gonna do the same thing again.
What I would love to hear is specific ideas of how we can improve this
I
product
told you.
specifically.
So we want to add this to the next.
Let's move it to the next agenda. I second your motion.
Carry the barricades in, unload them and then load up with cars.
I don't know if it'll make you feel any better, but I've been working for the city for 13 years. The very first downtown committee meeting that I was, we talked about parking and special events and street closures. So they are tremendously impactful to the day-to-day work that you all do. And they're tremendously difficult to hit directly, correctly, every single time. The biggest challenge with special events, and we've been working on some of these things. I think there were a lot of things that were brought up this evening in terms of timeline or street closure that can be very impactful and helpful. But the bottom line is the biggest thing is that the folks that we need to do a lot of the special events stuff do not do that on a day-to-day basis. They pick up trash and mow lawns and chase down speeders and people who run red lights. And so when we ask them to shift out of that gear and come help us close Main Street, which maybe they do, literally 1% to 2% of their time over the course of the year, it's tricky. No one remembers what it is that they were doing or how they did it the last time. And to Jamie and Terry's credit, and Dakota too, I know they work very, very hard to try to provide that information. And I do think that it's much improved. It also has changed, particularly over the last couple of years, in terms of our concerns around safety and security, which has, without a doubt, added a significant layer of complexity.
That has gotten better. The safety is better.
Yeah, when I started, we used to just put yellow barricades out for everything. I mean, you could have pushed them over with your backside. They were not providing anything other than a mild visual indication that you shouldn't drive through this block. So as we've added those layers of complexity, and as we've sort of tried to keep the policy and the performance of the various departments that are involved up with the growing size of our events, yeah, there are things that, we always look at and say, hey, we can do that better. So, I mean, I definitely heard it. I just want you guys to know that I did hear it. I also want to be clear that I think Jamie and Terry and Dakota have been working their tails off on this.
No one said they weren't.
I know.
That is not a complaint about.
Saying that we've relayed your message many times.
It's been not dealt with. Okay, fair. Well, then now some other people heard it.
So
why don't you listen to Jamie Carpenter?
Take some air.
Push and pull.
Take some air out. Everybody take a breath. For real. I'm serious. Because I think we did hear it. I think it's really important. I just want to make sure that I'm representing that Jamie's telling me these things. She's talking to me about some of what you've shared. She's pressing me on how do we get these different departments within the city to run special events more effectively. And I just want to represent that, that is a challenge that we will continue. It's like parking, special events. I know if I'm blessed to be here for another 10 years, I'm gonna be talking about those two things in 10 years. There's no doubt about it in my mind. They will not completely go away because they are outside of the norm. They have a broad impact on a lot of different people. And it just requires that you're continuously looking at them and continuously working to improve them. So,
well, with you talking and doing a good job, I've got a 5:30 advisement. So I hope it says fun, but I think it's fun. Good to see y'all.
So Caroline, just to clarify, there was a motion made in a second for adding this conversation to next month's agenda as a lead item on the agenda. Is that what we did?
No, there was the motion. We haven't approved it.
Okay,
We
right,
can
right.
talk about the motion. You guys can vote it down if you want. So all of that is on the table, but there was a motion made to put this on the agenda for the next meeting. And Joe, did you second?
I did.
Before you vote on it, is it at all possible that, I mean, Mark, you made a good point bringing this up, and you obviously shared your frustration with it. I personally find it offensive that we attack city staff here who are only here to seek our advice to help make the city better. I understand the frustration, but what I would like to recommend, instead of an entire meeting, that you all meet with the police department and because you've obviously shared a legitimate frustration, and that perhaps a smaller meeting, like we do subcommittees for things, might be more appropriate for those businesses that really want the city to understand the frustration.
maybe we can bring it to the attention of the events committee and have a police officer there.
Jamie's not being listened. Like if you are looking at all this
I think
stuff,
this
then
is a-
why are they not listening to
I think
you?
this is a room full of really creative people, and if you have a specific problem, like this is inefficient, like we can figure out a better way and say like, hey, why don't you try this instead? Like what's slowing you guys down? You've identified a problem, it's taken 4 hours, how can we get that down to 3 hours? And then next year, how can we get it down to 2.5 hours?
It's been 22 minutes. We talked about parking for an hour. Let me just note that.
No, but we've identified a problem, let's.
Some of the street closure times.
Concrete solution.
I want you to know that up in Michigan, my husband used to do a lot of shows. And the minute that the tow trucks go onto the street, everybody's running out and moving their cars. So just moving the tow trucks onto the street to drive down had the impact. So
Pre-parade before Halloween parade is totally.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So then they got to work.
So
I'm
I
sorry.
will just go ahead and say, I wanted to say this earlier, but I wanted you guys to hash out your frustrations. Sometimes it's good to get those things out. Yes, this can be done in a much quicker way. Last year, I think it was last year, if it was the year before, Art on Main, the committee was very good about going beforehand to all of the businesses, not just day of, but like day before, 2 days before. Bringing flyers, explaining to management and staff of like, this is what we're doing, this is when we're closing streets, when you have customers coming in, please let them know this is happening. I know when this year, when we were closing down for Halloween, I'll bring it up because that's what we just talked about. I was shocked that it was getting closed that early when I saw the sign. I was very shocked. I didn't realize it was gonna be that early. So I think one thing that could fix this, or at least a jumping off point to try and fix this, is first of all, we need to determine what is the, let's say, a minimum time for setup. If they need 2 hours and we're giving them a 2-hour window, if it starts at 6, you have to be here by 4 to set up, which means we could shut down the street at say 3. That gives an hour, get people off the streets. We have to ensure that all the businesses understand, not just day of, but leading up to, like, beat it into their heads. We are shutting the street down at 3. Explain to your staff, explain to your customers as they come in. Tell them 3 o'clock it's shut down. By 3:30, there's gonna be a ticket. If it's not off there by 3:45, it's being towed because it's officially shut at 4. Like, you have to be hardlined on this thing.
That's the enforcement.
And that's what you have to do. And it can be it could be shut down that quick. It's just, but I think a lot of it does also come down to a lot of us in this room that have these businesses on Main Street. We also have to be very vocal to these people. I know it sucks to have to tell your customer you have to leave. It does, but it's the only way you're gonna efficiently get that street shut down fast to have the least amount of impact on your business of that.
There needs to be an SOP. And so the police, so if they're only doing it 1% of the time, there's already something written up. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And don't have it be like a day of, don't drop off a little sheet of paper day of, lead up to it that week.
We do have an event.
No, I mean,
Second on the table.
oh yeah, they may have something to say.
No, they're here for an agenda item, but
Okay.
there was a motion to.
Yeah, we can talk about it next month, but I think that's the easiest thing to start with. That is gonna be the least impactful on so many things, especially public works and everything. And it could officially be done.
Again, before we talk about it again, because we do understand the frustration, wouldn't it make more sense between now and the next meeting for a small group to meet with the police chief or the parking or whoever it is? Wouldn't that be a little more efficient and then they can tell us what feedback they got from that? Or
I'll leave that up to the board to decide how y'all want to handle that. If you want to have them come to the next meeting, which by the way, I won't be here. I'll be on vacation, but either that, so the motion was to have it moved to the next meeting and Joe seconded, but if there wants to, however that.
I think we should leave it like that, and if some of us individually would like to speak to the police chief or the head of public works, we can do that on our own time and bring that information back.
I think it would be.
Passionate about it, then
This can quietly down the road has definitely worked for the last several years, Mark. That's.
The people are not here who are going to be able to resolve that. It's the police and public works that need to be on this table to hear everything that y'all have just said. Because it's gonna be important for them as they're part of the decision making and the recommendations to be a part of hearing this from y'all. And
it would
so.
be good for them to hear it, 'cause if they just come in and just get slapped with it, they're gonna be defensive
So
about it.
what if we did this? What if we put this on events next meeting to have Public Works and police at the next events meeting to talk about this? And then the events chair can then present the results of that to this group. I don't know, so we actually have some action items next month instead of
Yeah.
waiting until next month to talk about things that we might.
and perhaps Mark and Caroline, if they're not on that committee, you might want to at least go and share
I will make a point.
feedback.
You do it at topic by topic.
At this next meeting, I would love to have specific, because this doesn't, yeah, I mean, I'm not really privy to a lot of what you guys are talking about, but I would love to be able to have, you know, okay, what are some real world solutions to this? How do we do a better job, you know? So,
Leadership hasn't responded to anything, to go to the people executing it and say, what are your challenges?
Well, I listened to a whole lot of stuff tonight. And I understand there's an issue, but to me, it needs to be discussed with the police and the public works through some boss at the city. Okay, well, here's the thing. Chief of police, in my opinion, shouldn't even be involved in closing the street. The public works people can put together a team that can close the street as advised by the chief of police saying this will be safe. Those guys can go out there, even if it's a key guy from the water department, a key guy from the sewer department, a key guy from public works, and they're the road close team. It ain't that hard. And that's what they do every single event. They know how to do it. They get it down. They get the barricades. They're staged at the right places. They're filled at the right time. They got the right piece of equipment to set them all out there. And then the police enforce the road is closed. Because if you're counting on the, well,
That is how it works.
evidently it ain't working too good.
Yeah, but that's exactly, like how you said it is exactly what happened.
I hear it from like tons and tons of merchants every time. And so I have to bring that here. And so I like sat and watched it like specifically the last several times, and it just isn't done very well. It takes too much time. It takes too much time. But I have talked about this with Jamie. Jamie has taken it to the proper authorities. I've had conversations with it about every person who works for the city in this room, and nothing has been done. No one's talking about it at special events. So now everybody who goes to the special events meeting has heard it all and very loudly now. So now maybe something will happen. Like what do I want? Like all those merchants tell them, like, every one of you, like, copy and paste this thing on Facebook and start a big stink about it. Is that what we want? Or do you want Caroline Gunther just to show up to a meeting and be like, all right, I'm already hearing it. I know I'm gonna hear it in 3 weeks when the parade happens. Like, I want to be able to reference, like, it was a come to Jesus tonight and now everybody knows, so we're gonna figure it out for next year. All right? Next thing. So do you want to put it on the next agenda? Or do you want to kick it down the road 3 months? I mean, I don't know. Like, all I've heard of all.
There's a motion and a second.
Yeah, motion and a second. It should be put on there because clearly it's an issue, so we'll discuss it, but let's make it a focus next month because we do have other stuff we have to get through today.
Okay. So all those in favor, is there any more discussion about the motion, just the motion? All right, all those in favor?
wait a second.
Oh, wait.
No, I wanted to amend the
Okay.
motion that we were gonna put this on as a focus item on the next agenda, but also, looking for some direction from events team,
I would recommend the Economic Vitality Committee.
economic vitality.
Why's that?
Because that committee has talked more about the effects to businesses. The events
Okay.
committee focuses more on setting up events logistically.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear like actual suggestions for things that we could do by this committee's next meeting.
And the
Yeah.
events team also does like our sanctioned events, like Rhythm and Brews, things like that, and not, like, Trick or Treat Street isn't downtown's event. It's the Parks and Rec event.
I'd like to second Matt's amendment with Jamie's recommendation on which event committee that should.
The Economic Vitality Committee.
Economic Vitality.
All right,
Okay, so we're gonna put it in Economic Vitality.
that's our motion.
So that's like a new motion.
Okay, so Matthews made the motion, amended the motion that it's brought to Economic Vitality Team and to the board following that.
I second.
Laura second.
All right. Does that sound good to everyone? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, hurricane recovery updates, Jamie.
So the hurricane recovery and the downtown team reports, if y'all are okay with it, that's basically what's in that PowerPoint that's handed out with everybody. So you're welcome to just review. It's a lot of stuff that I had gone over in the committee meetings. And so we don't necessarily need to go over it. I have that as just our, I also have a note about community character and economic vitality updates in there as well. Just one thing to highlight for hurricane recovery is our Look Into Grant Fund. First round closed on November 8th on Friday, and we had 97 applicants. And not that much money. So, I'm on the committee reviewing the applications now, and we're hoping to get those funds out soon. But then I have our other hurricane recovery stuff there. I don't have any other update on that in
Good
particular.
question on that. Are you gonna be trying to issue the amount of money to what was requested for each applicant, or are you gonna try and reduce to cover more people?
So I'm just one of, there's like 5 of us, and so.
Well, not you specifically,
Yeah.
but the group.
Yeah, so it'll kind of have different opinions on that, but I think that it will probably be, because we had recommended $1,000 to $10,000 funding. They probably, my guess, will not be fully funded to, if it's at that 10,000. But I'm not sure yet. We're going through and we're scoring them all, and then we'll see if we've had more money come in, and on Friday, we're meeting to dole out how we're gonna distribute it. And it will be, highest impact as priority. So ones that, have had major physical damage, will have, probably some more priority, but I am on my side of things pushing for the downtown folks who have applied as best as I can in that, and as fairly as I can for it. Because we provided some funds for it, the Friends of Downtown, as well as the TDA, which theirs are targeted specifically for any type of tourism related businesses. So we've got some support for both of those, I think, for downtown related. But the information that from any of the applications will help us, because we're still accepting applications to have a future round. And when we have the data for the first round of applications and say we only funded like 5% of the total amount requested, then that might help us to be able to get some more for that. Sort of that.
Good hustle on that. I mean, you did a lot for that.
Yeah, I feel like I probably did a large majority of what our committee task force had done, yes.
And you did it quickly and well, while you were working at EOC. Good job. Downtown team reports. Community character.
That's me. So the main thing to share with you all on that one is that we've nailed down a date and a kind of a general scope for the 7th Avenue Street Fest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this would be the proper city planned and executed reveal of 7th Avenue, new 7th Avenue. We're gonna tie it in with the beginning of the farmer's market, so this will be Saturday, May 3rd. And it's gonna overlap the market, so we want to start at around 11 and run 11 to 6. So we actually have an overlap. We're actually taking advantage of folks who are coming down for the farmer's market and just kind of a blowout thing. So the scope of this is gonna be essentially the closure that you see right now that we've had. We're gonna keep that the same. This will be a proper block party. So think a smaller version of Rhythm and Brews, music stage, beer and wine. We're gonna invite some of the vendors from the farmer's market, if they're so inclined, to actually join this event. So I mean, we've got the scope of it down. We're looking at 11 to 6. And we're just starting to hammer out the details right now, but this will be a proper party. It will. I mean, this has been a big deal, and I think this is important for for the community to kind of, especially with the backing of the city of Hendersonville, you know, really promote like what we've done and what we've accomplished and kind of what it took to get there too. So, so that was the main thing that we were dealing with this month. But just kind of a little sidebar from that is, Saturday, December 14th, we're gonna be doing a little, I'm calling it kind of like a soft opening of Seventh Avenue. So we're trying to, we're gonna be working with our neighbors on Seventh Avenue as far as, we're gonna do an open house at the bakery. This is gonna be, this could be a soft opening for the street. It'll also be, an artist reception for Walter Arnold. He's a photographer. His main studio is on River Arts District and he got hit pretty hard. He was able to salvage some of his work. So we're going to be, he'll be there. We'll be focusing on, we're going to do a proper reception for him and awareness about especially what happened within the River Arts, community. And then also it ties in with our 15-year anniversary. So we're going to kind of bill it as an open house, you know, kind of, so, but we'll be working with our neighbors on Seventh Avenue to, if they want to, so it'll be kind of like a soft opening. And the messaging we're getting right now from Harper is that block will be open definitely by then. So I think they're planning on opening the corridor of 7th to Locust sometime right before Thanksgiving.
And do we have media or promo for this to hand out to merchants on Main Street?
Not yet, but we will. I mean, we just wanted to get the scope, get a consensus of what the scope, we want this to look and feel like, just kind of an overall outline for where things are gonna be, but this will be I think a very well attended and a really fun event for the community. So.
Sounds
What I got.
Oh, sounds great.
You know?
Of course.
Market of the farmers market.
Yeah, it'd be May 3rd.
Yeah.
May 3rd.
Sweet.
Yeah, but the Saturday, the December 14th event at the bakery, it is an open house. So it's 5 to 8. So I would encourage, I mean, it's gonna be like a big bear hug for the community. They really do. So we want to say thank you and just really have a fun night with it.
If there's anything you need from me for that, let me know.
Economic vitality, thank you. Anything, economic vitality.
Economic vitality got a little derailed by the hurricane. We are still making inroads on the master plan. And we were gonna talk about the vacant building policy. That's gonna be on the agenda. Bill, do you want to talk about the need for artists searching?
Yeah.
Okay.
We may have more news later on other projects.
We have two things, yeah, exactly.
No, I just have to get to my.
Oh, I do too. We have two initiatives going, from the art world. One, Art on Seventh is pivoting to, put its entire artist registry into displaced WNC artists. So we've already released almost all of the artists that we've had for 3 years. They're gone. And we've started recruiting applicants for new representation. This is focused on ones that have been hammered hard. Not just Asheville, but you know, all through the mountains. So that's a personal thing at Art on Seventh. The more public concerning effort is to try and identify artists who have lost their facilities, their studio space, their equipment, and they can't produce anymore unless it's in the bedroom of their apartment or their house. So I'm trying to solicit the information from RAD, AVL, I mean, all the sources we can come up with to get a contact list whereby we can put out a request for information. Are you needing studio space? Or would you consider leaving your present location and going to Hendersonville? And so on and so forth. How much space do you need? There's a lot of questions to ask them if we can get them to respond. We have available funding to buy a number of buildings in Hendersonville, all within the two districts. So if we can identify enough population that would be willing to come in here, I think we can get not only the acquisitions or leases, but the renovations funded to bring in 50, 100, 200 new artists to the Hendo market. And so this is the biggest challenge. I mean, getting people to apply for Art on 7th is easy. This is a uphill swing because there's already walls around art communities that don't want to lose their people. And so, yeah, we're still working that, but that's very much on the forefront of my plate right now, so if I get a little short, yeah, I got too many balls in the air.
We all do. That sounds amazing, though.
We'll see. I hope.
It's economic vitality, that's what we talked about.
All right, awesome. Events. Carrie, you gonna do that?
I've got the flyer for the holiday events out, if you would like to take that with you. It's just pass it around, take it to your business, take a handful of them.
Is this something we can get emailed to us?
Yeah, that's just our ad for holiday events. And then we have our bear auctions. Do you have anything else?
But you guys are.
When is the bear?
The bear auction is Saturday.
This Saturday.
Yeah, we're at $85,000 currently. The buy it now ends on Thursday. And so if anyone in the room would like to buy a bear, you can buy it now for $10,000 till Thursday. And then after that, you can bid on it. And if it goes over $10,000, you're paid more than that. We've sold 3 at buy now price. And then so we'll have since we've moved over for virtual, we've had a countdown party basically at the courthouse instead of having just a live caller. The only thing different with the auction this year is when the bidding ends at 6, people who are active bidders can continue to outbid each other. They have 30 seconds to continue to bid each other instead of it all just ending straight up at 6.
We're doing it online again too, right?
Yeah, it's all online.
So if they don't get the 30 seconds, then it's over.
Yeah,
And we are having the party.
Yeah.
Okay, starting at 4.
yeah, 4:30 to 6.
The most exciting 2 hours in Hendersonville every year, I'm telling you, or the last 20 minutes.
We have someone who's about it and someone on the call for an agenda item that we have to cover there.
Oh, okay. Event requests.
Yeah. So, Frank is on the call. He hopefully is, he's with the, Environmental Sustainability Board, which as y'all know, has come, I think it came to this committee, previously, and, you know, the last couple of years, they've had Earth Fest at, the 500 and 400 block. And, now they're looking to change it, and so that's in the agenda packet. But their requested change is to have the event from the courthouse block, the block in between the courthouse and the visitor center, and the visitor center block. Where our problem and why we wanted them to come to y'all today was because when we had gone through our event fees and discussions on events, we basically had said 2-block closure or full street closure. And so we don't have a 3-block option. And so we told the Environmental Sustainability Board that they needed to have that come to y'all. And now they were going to come to this meeting 2 months ago, and we didn't have it in September, and then last month we didn't have a meeting. And so they are getting to where they need to know one way or the other.
Space.
I'll leave that, if Frank, if you can hear us, if you can unmute and would like to,
Awesome. I don't know if anyone can see me. Do you need my camera on, or can you hear me okay?
we can hear you good.
Well, thank you all for having me. Yeah, we are sort of with the storm and being asked to come over to you guys first. It's a little deviation from the process we've had for the last couple of years, which is just going in front of special events. We did take up fourth and fifth, and the aquarium was integral in doing something on their block, and we did go down fifth a block as well. So we took up sort of like a little T on Main Street there, which was right in the middle. So I know that's sort of perplexing as well, that we're right in the middle of Main Street, closing it up for hours. Our hope is with this move that we could gain a little bit more space this year. We've been growing every year exponentially as we've been having Earth Fest. It's a great free event for anybody to come. It's great for families and kids. It's great to connect with local businesses and local nonprofits. If you guys haven't been, since it is an event sponsored by the Environmental Sustainability Board, we really, we don't take any funds. It's all informational. It's all educational. 10 to 3, and I think this year we're looking at Saturday, April 19th. The big push for change of venue and a little relocation again is to grow a little bit, and we ran into that last year. After the first year, we thought, well, there were some problems navigating that little stretch that we had. There's a lot of talk every year, and it goes on like your discussion of parking today in subcommittee meetings about the ingress and outgress of people coming in and vendors, and it's right there in the middle of, in the middle of Main Street, or that end. So we're looking to grow, so we'd like that other block. Also, we offer a lot of live music and other educational things. So with that, we've been using the stage right there on Main Street. And what we found out and talked to people is some people really like to enjoy the music more, and some people want to enjoy the festival more and talk to the businesses. And if you have some amplification and you're right there on that stage, you're taking up that middle of that street really for all the vendors around you. You're not able to have the meaningful discussions that you need to. So that was the one part of that was in hopes of moving down to the visitor center, and we also have put in an application to be able to get the stage as well. So that's on hold until we can decide if this is a possibility for us. Also, we have applied for use of the plaza at the historic courthouse, where I would love to do some more kids art activities with repurposed and recycled things, as well as maybe some more entertainment for kids that sort of has an environmental spin. So being able to really take up that area on that end of the map there at the historic courthouse and over at the visitor center at the stage, and that area really helps us break up the entertainment that we have and stretch out the vendors a little bit more. Last year we had lots of EVs. We sort of grow the EV group every year, and we had them scattered out last year. I think it would be really cool to do some vendors and some EVs and some more vendors down and sort of put them together. We've separated them last year. That worked a little better. The first year we had them all together down fifth, and that promoted a problem of people knowing that the festival continued down there. It just looked like a parking lot across from City Hall, which is a parking lot, but it was full of electric cars. So people just thought people were hanging out. So yeah, we're really looking to be able to increase our footprint a little bit. I think this is a fantastic festival. It's a fantastic thing that ESB is able to sponsor, and we appreciate everybody in the city that promotes it. I've been listening to all your things about closing streets. I'm a big proponent of the bollards. I've made that, I think, Caitlin, and mentioned that to some other folks, just because, especially at Earth Fest, filling up those big barricades with water just sort of blew our mind from an environmental standpoint, especially for that festival. So I'm a big proponent of bollards. Every year we have the festival to touch on things you folks have spoken about is we do go downtown and talk to the businesses where we will be closing on the street. We give them a flyer. We invite them to have sidewalk sales. We don't want them to close down or feel that, they've been, invaded for the day when we have Earth Fest. We try to talk to every business owner and make it a point to say, if you have anything that you can do with your business that's sort of an environmental spin, bring it out to the street and be a part of the festival. So we really do try to have, a good vibe with the folks downtown, knowing that we're closing off the street for several hours. But that's my spiel. Yeah, we're just looking to make a move where the festival grows every year. And there is really, like you guys said, there's nothing between a two block or everything. And man, I can't wait until we can get Earth Fest to take up the entire street. That'll be awesome. But, we've had big vendors building environmental friendly houses out of their patented building system last year down in the parking lot. So, I mean, anything is possible with, people wanting to come out and show their products and do things on a grand scale. So hope you will all consider this. I've laid out a sketch, and based on the last 2 years, how we've done in and out for vendors and where they park and thing, I think I've laid this out pretty clear that number one, will cut down, I think, on the barricades that we have been doing for some of the main streets, as well as being able to handle the in and out of vendors at setup and closing pretty effectively.
Thank you. Yeah, so we wanted to bring this to the board because it was a change on this event for Main Street, and since we don't have that 3 block as a typical closure, to see what the feedback and recommendation from this board was.
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear to me that, especially as events grow in one direction, are they gonna grow from 2 blocks to the entire street, or is it 2 blocks to 3 blocks? So that's a precedent here. I mean, I think this is an important event to highlight and reflecting the city, and I mean, my first thought would be, if they need the extra block, then give them the extra block.
Doesn't look like more police presence is needed for any of that, or.
That would be something that they'd have to, the police will say how many officers they need for all of that. It's more for asking y'all, we had this big discussion just now on closures. And so this affects a different part of the street. And so if you are okay with it or not, I guess is the.
I can say from Mast standpoint, the festival has been right in front of our business in the past, and I'll confirm everything he said about being very respectful and giving a lot of heads up and communicating really well. So we've had good experience with it.
It was.
I don't know why we wouldn't approve it.
It was well done last year. It was cute. I mean, I understand changing the location because of the needs for the stage. Here we are again in that same little block period. So for me personally, I love this festival. It's so cute. It was great last year. My personal feel is yes, but I'm gonna vote no on it because I have to, even though it's not in my interest, I feel that there's so much for that stretch of merchants that I just cannot support it at this time. So this is the change in location.
I will say, because I agree, because courthouse gets a lot, but also that block too, because the jump off rock race is right on this same block where they were before. So that's like and those are very close to each other. A lot of times this group here has made recommendations of, instead of the 3 blocks, you could do like the Rhythm and Brews closure, which Frank, that would be from the visitor center block here south. So it would be the Allen to Caswell. So that could be something to think about too, because it's like what you're saying is spot on, but that's also the same case for that we hear from the folks, some of them on this courthouse.
I thought it was like the best small block closure. And I think that the vendors could have been a little tight, closer in, so I think there was some more room back where they were, but it was really cute. I mean, when I was like, oh, I don't know how this is gonna be, it was really a cute little festival, and I was like really pleased with how it went, since we've kind of moved to bigger things, but listen, I just can't right now. I have to.
Is there less impact if they went south for businesses?
If it were like the Rhythm and Brews closure, then that has a pretty minimal impact. 'Cause it's-
Give them the space that they want, if they did like.
That's a question for them also.
That would be the perfect solution there.
Well, and I would be happy to, you know, other alternate solutions. This was just a good one because it did give us, you know, opportunity for the stage and the courthouse on the other end to sort of bookend it with some great entertainment and some learning opportunities. And I've been listening for over an hour about all the things with parking and street closures. And if I had a business downtown, I would feel the same way. But I've lived in Charlotte for 20 years plus. We lived in Asheville for 4 before coming here. As a new transplant, I want to say that what you guys have done for the city for parking is the greatest thing ever. When I go downtown during the day to run an errand, I'm just going to go in and possibly do the 30 minutes, but I never can find anywhere during the day. The placement of the parking garage, you're going down, you hit Fifth, man, that's your last public parking spot to get over there to the garage. So I think it's well laid out. I just wanted to commend you guys for that because I've been listening to this for like an hour, but we would be open to other solutions and other opportunities. I would be open to, you know, we've often talked about taking it off of Main Street and doing it somewhere in Jackson Park, but I don't know if that's a viable option, or doing it in another park where we could have more open and green space. That then limits us to the possibility of, you know, amplified sound and power and all that stuff that we would need, that we get, you know, downtown, and possibly parking. But
I was
The 19th is the Saturday before Easter.
I mean, I would definitely say at the very least, go look and scope out the Rhythm and Brew section, because it's a great area for it, and there is a stage there you can utilize. I'm assuming they'd be able to utilize the stage.
Sorry, and to use the TDA stage.
Well, then maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. Weren't they, where were they going?
Courthouse to the TDA.
To the TDA, so just move it down, so you're still gonna have that stage, you're just moving it a little bit off of the main path of Main Street. And you're in a much more open area, and there's actually more open areas off to the sides that you can work with a little bit
That
better.
makes sense.
And if you're worried about possibly people parking to it, not being able to park close enough, it actually might benefit the downtown of, now they have to walk through the downtown to get to it, so now there's more chance of them stopping in the shops.
right on. I'm down with, that sounds like a great opportunity. I'm very happy. Maybe, you know, after this meeting, Jamie, can we get together and sort of talk about, what that would look like? I'd be happy to come down and meet with you so I could get back to ESB and say, this is what we come up with. But if you guys can figure that out, I would be very happy with moving forward with the solution, because now that we're back at you guys, we then have to go back to special events. So Storm and moving around and coming to other meetings has really put us to, you know, I haven't really done a lot of planning. It's pretty easy festival to pull off, especially if of what we've learned every year. And that's what I've heard everybody here talking about. You learn something every year, you keep it going. So hopefully we fine tune it, the get in, the get out, the festival times and everything every year. We've learned a lot. So we're trying to push that forward every year.
Yeah, if y'all, and if this board is okay with it, the layout, like what we have for Rhythm and Brews, like we already know how to set that up and break that down and close it. And police and public works and everybody knows how to do that layout. So if that's something that feels.
That's the Ola Carolina layout too, right?
They just closed Barnwell, but didn't go further all the way to Caswell. So yeah, we've got a couple different options for the layout there. If that's something that feels okay with y'all.
And speak up if you think, if I'm not right, but it sounds to me like the consensus of this board Is a no to the additional block closure, but a suggestion to look at the footprint of Rhythm Brews for this event.
So it
Is that
just
correct?
flips the block, right? It takes that top one off and
Yeah.
pulls it down
Slip it
one
down.
further.
But I just wanted, like, is that,
It's even more room.
is that the consensus in the room?
I would say yes. I think that would probably be a much better solution for them even going forward.
Right.
Does it take the top 2 blocks off?
Yeah, no, two, because they've got the block in between where, not, where Never Blue was. And
Oh,
so-
yeah.
So basically, it's 2 down, but these are smaller blocks, like down here
Those are. much
and the
smaller.
parking lot here, there's a lot of room.
Yeah.
So it's a 2 block closure because that's the same distance.
Yeah.
And then they have access to the parking lots that they need.
Yeah, there's a lot more room on that Rhythm Brews.
There's a lot more.
It's better that way anyway.
And then you don't have to worry about,
People can ride.
Same thing we were talking about.
Yeah, going forward, it'd be a great spot, because once like the Acoustic Trail opens, it ties right in every year.
So Frank, thank you for bringing this up because I can already feel that this is set a precedent for other events as well as they grow, that is really a great location, a win-win.
Yeah.
If your organization can make that footprint work, that going forward with additional events, this is a good idea.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Jamie, let's nail this down and if you guys will approve it and then I will, fix the map and present it back so I can have it ready for special events and to present back at ESB with the alternative.
yeah, we've already got layouts that you can kind of more or less copy from ours and some other events that are there. And then we will need to, if that's what the layout is, it doesn't need to come back to this board.
Okay, that's
Then we'll
awesome.
go to
If you would-
special events.
If you would point me in the direction of that for
Yes.
those layouts, and then that way I will have it ready for the next special events meeting and then to get it back to the ESB.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you guys for all working with us. This is a fantastic festival. It's great for the city. Again, we grow, but we grow environmentally when we do this as well with every project that the city puts forward. So it's a great way to showcase what the city is doing and what everybody in the region's doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Have a good evening.
Informal
Do we
discussion
need,
sounds
let's do
dangerous.
that for like 2 hours.
No. Let's take that off the agenda.
All right, I just need a motion to
Motion
adjourn.
to adjourn, please.
All right, thank you.